Hello everybody, Aisha Lakshmi here, author of the upcoming book Date with Fate, Empowerment Coach for Supermoms, Life Transformational Coach for Purposeful Living. So I'm extremely happy to invite you all for yet another special episode of Supermoms Unleashed. Thank you so much for all your comments and for your support for this inspirational talk show. I'm extremely glad and happy to hear that it is creating a different perspective to see life for you. Thank you so much for that. Now, let me all ask you one thing. How wonderful will our life be if we are going to have an integrated approach in our life? Integrated approach to have a better peace, better harmony, and better success. Right from our physical health, and mental health, emotional well-being, financial health, love life, spirituality, if at all we are going to concentrate in every aspect of our segment equally, giving equal importance, how balanced will our life be? Currently, what is it that is happening in our life? If at all we are going to concentrate on our physical health because of a physical alignment, we forget to focus on our emotional well-being. If we are focusing on our physical and emotional well-being, we forget about the financial well-being. If everything is there, we forget about spiritual well-being. But then, one day or the other, our life takes a turn and we are getting hit very badly. How beautiful our life will be if we can approach our life in a holistic perspective, not giving anything more or anything less, but equally balancing every aspect of our life. We will be having a better success, right? We will be having a lot of happiness, right? That is the holistic approach. Well, let me all ask you one more question. How many of you think that creating your own destiny beyond all your fateful situations is a crap? If you are that kind of a person, then this episode is especially for you to create a 360-degree shift in all your views about life, perspectives about life forever. I have a stunning super mom today in our episode of Super Moms Unleashed to create a fire of hope in all your lives. She is an Ayurvedic doctor by profession, an author, trainer, and a life turnaround success coach. She is a founder of D Mantra to transform lives forever for their own betterment. She is a woman of substance, a power woman, a super mom, a thriving super mom, and she is an awesome personality to have it in our show today. She is a perfect example of power balance. Why do I say that? She enjoys a powerful family life and a very successful, passionate career life as well. I am extremely happy to invite remarkable guest Dr. Meghna to our show today, and come, let's welcome together and hear lot of inspiring stories from her life, and we get lot of new learnings as well. Come on, let's invite her, okay? Just give me a second. I'm inviting our super guest, Dr. Meghna Dikshit. Super. Thank you so much for accepting the invitation, Meghna. I'm so happy and glad that you're in our show today.
Thank you for inviting Ishwarya. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to have this dialogue, have this conversation with you and all your viewers.
Thank you so much. So, my first question to you, Meghna, as a doctor, as an Ayurvedic doctor, what inspired you as such to have an emotional balance also? Because doctors like you are very rare. And usually doctors treat only the physical ailments, and if at all there is a need for any emotional well-being, they refer us to a counselors or psychologist. Okay, but then you yourself have ensured to treat that as well, and that aspect of our human being as well. So, what inspired you to do that?
So, primarily, Ishwarya, what happened is when, like Tony Robbins says, your mess becomes your message.
Correct.
If you're able to turn your mess into the message. So I feel that, emotionally, I was very immature as a child. I could not connect. I mean, I was overloaded with the emotions, but I was not able to pinpoint on what emotions I'm going through at the moment.
Okay.
I'm not sure how many of you relate to this, but you know, especially in our society, we are not told to pay attention to the emotions. We are generally either, you know, exaggerating the emotions through our, you know, happiness, anger, etc., etc., or we are just kind of cold and we are not doing so. So I guess I pretty much grew up like that, like where for me every emotion was like an exaggeration of the you know, expression of it. But the biggest turning point in my life happened when I graduated as an Ayurvedic doctor. And you know, it's clearly mentioned in Ayurveda that any person who comes to you for any ailment, and if you treat that person well, and if you deal with the root cause, that person should never come back to you with the same problem.
Correct.
And you know, I started as a young doctor, and you know, I was working towards it. In the initial few years, like, you know, I was getting really good response to all my sessions and all the things that I was doing. People across India were connecting with me. I was consider myself as one of the luckiest freshers in the industry who got really, you know, fame, money, popularity, good results, everything. But after 3 4 years, I started realizing in my career that, you know, 50% of the people whom I treated for chronic illnesses, especially, they were coming back, you know, with having similar kind of issues. And I was wondering, if I have treated them well, why should they come back? And they didn't complain at all, because for them, you know, their misery was like came down to 25%. And where the doctors had, allopaths had told them that, you know, you will have to live forever like this, and you know, you'll have all the problems going on and stuff. So nobody complained to me, but internally I was feeling that there is something not right. You know, I guess from there onwards, that whole being that super person or being that extraordinary person, that little kida was always there in me. So I started digging deeper and understanding what could be the reason that these people are not fully healed, you know. And from there, then I kind of, you know, my turning point happened in 2000, early 2000 in my career. Like I graduated in 1997, and in 2000, the turnaround happened in my life, where one woman from Bihar used to come to me. Now I live in Mumbai, right? So from Bihar to Mumbai is like almost 2,500 kilometers of travel probably. And like from the remotest area that she was in. And she came with a baby and her husband, and she was referred by somebody, and she had, the whole body was filled with rheumatism, like, you know, there was so much pain, there was swelling. And you know, she was also, you know, having this white discharge, the leukorrhea that women go through. And throughout, to an extent that she was so depressed, and she was not even able to nurse her baby, and there was a lot of issues going on. So when she came with her husband, she didn't speak a word. She was like cold. She was not able to express herself. The way she was looking at me was like, you know, I felt like, my God, this woman has, I don't know how long she has not spoken kinds, you know. And her husband spoke the entire session. So I said, okay, all right. I was absolutely like a, I would say that I was 24, 25 year old, and a new in the business, in the career, I would say at that time. So I just gave her the medicine, and I said, would you be okay to come back after 15 days? And they said, okay, we'll come back. She came back in 15 days, and you know, she just told me that, she said that, you know, I'm 50% better. Now this was a first opening line I got from her. Okay, the first time she didn't speak a word. When she next time spoke, I thought that, okay, now she's ready probably to speak to me. So I asked her husband, and I said, would you be okay if you take the child and go somewhere? I will take an hour to talk to her. Because see, for me, I feel the whole opening of this whole, like you asked me, why did I get into it, started from the point of view of curiosity.
Correct. Okay.
That why do humans suffer?
Hmm.
Diseases. When you are 90, yeah, the 95% of the people are born healthy in the world. Then what happens, that how do we become unhealthy, or how do you become diseased? There has to be something that we are not doing right? And that's where, when she started talking to me, her story was like, you know, she came from a very liberal family, even though they're from Bihar, and the parents were very liberal in terms of educating the daughters. But you know, the undercurrent of that was, if I educate my daughter, she will get a educated husband and she will be well placed in her life after the marriage. And then she got married. She got married to into kind of like an orthodox family where the husband was really well placed, but she was with mother-in-law, father-in-law, and you know, everybody was like, you know, a woman, especially the daughter-in-law of the house, should not speak or forget about giving an opinion. Now you can only imagine a girl who is oriented well in her life. She's so educated, she is liberated, and she's also a kabaddi player. Like, you know, you are right there in the space, and suddenly you are uprooted from all that, and you are now in a family where you are supposed to just keep your mouth shut. You can't even say anything. I guess from her story that I realized that what was missing in her life is that expression, you see. And then I started talking to her, and over 6 months period we kind of, you know, went down and deeper and understood that what she wants in her life. So basically in her life, what she has down to is any future possibility. She thought this is going to be my life forever. And I have realized this, Ishwarya, after that in every person, that you know, the moment you see that future is not as bright or the way you envision, you start creating diseases in your body, because the you know, somewhere deep down, I think you don't desire to live fully. You're killing yourself all the time. And in 6 months period, I realized that, you know, I was just talking to her. She was expressing, we are working together. Her husband pitched in. And, you know, in 6 months, she launched her business from home.
Wow.
Okay,
That is
thankfully the
awesome.
husband was really supportive. Yeah, so husband said that I am going to do everything in my capacity to take care of my wife. That was, God bless the man, because otherwise there was, you know, in that time, I'm talking about 20 years back, it was very difficult. And in the Bihar area, which is like a remotest area right now also in India, so you can imagine 20 years back, right? Then that time there was no internet. That time there was no mobile phones, like at least not so much as we use right now. So and bringing her every 15 days to me from there is also, he took up that entire thing. And in 6 months she launched the business. She kind of made it a success. She was feeling so fulfilled. She was looking forward to every single day. She was very happy with her child. She was very happy in her marriage. She was serving her in-laws very well. So she was managing everything in her life, at the same time living her life fully. And you know, and when I said that, you know, your treatment is complete now and you will never get the rheumatism back. Okay, just live your life fully. Learn to express yourself fully. That was the last session. I remember that she came to me with the box of sweets. She gave me the box of sweets. She hugged me tight. She cried, and in a way, even I cried. I still cry, by the way, whenever my clients get the success. I guess that's the beauty of women, right? That we have that.
Yes.
So we both cried, and she hugged me and she said, you know, Dr. Meghna, I can tell you one thing that you taught me. You taught me that I matter. And you taught me, with every words that you used, with every session that we had, the only thing that you conveyed to me is you matter. And I didn't realize back then, Ishwarya, honestly, that this is what I'm doing, the impact. Over a period of time, I'm realizing it now. And that's why I gave my book's name also is You Matter.
Okay.
So the birth of that book actually happened 20 years back, but the realization came to me much later, that what do I do to people is I give them an immense self-belief that even though they have cancer, thyroid, PCOS or infertility, they can come out of it. So I have dealt with all sorts of problems, not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, relationship wise, career wise, money wise. And you know, I never went out and asked people to come to me. I just started giving the results, and people were just naturally flowing towards me. Like, you know, to an extent that as a doctor, I didn't realize how will I help a relationship person. Somebody has problems in relationships, or how will I help somebody who has a career issue or a financial issue. And people just surrendered and they said, we don't know what you're going to do, but just do it. Something that you do that helps others, and I'm sure it will help me. So I guess a lot of I would hear Ishwarya say, you know, that I think this was my divine purpose, which was always there, but you know, sometimes you miss that, you don't recognize it. Sometimes वो bulb थोड़ा late जलता है. You know, you are into that zone. So I guess that's where the whole
Wow,
journeys
wow.
like that.
Very, very, very inspiring to hear it actually, Meghna. And I think from this story, I would like to convey a small message to my viewers. Like living our life in victim mode is not going to help us anytime. It is our own duty to unhook ourselves from the victim mode and live our life with all our dreams focused, right? So if we are living in victim mode, there is a lot of chances that we get a lot of diseases as well. So we have to check whether we are good enough or not. And if we are not good enough, always experts to help us, right?
Absolutely,
So it is we who have to
absolutely.
take the first step and talk to people, open up, and help us to help them get transformed, right? Okay, super, super,
Yes.
Meghna. Thank you so much. Okay, my second question to you will be, see, as a success coach yourself, what kind of success that mothers need to actually aspire for when we are extremely busy taking care of the next generation? Do we really need to aspire for some kind of success? If so, what is it? I mean, maintaining this
Okay, so
responsibilities as well.
yeah. So see, I, Ishwarya, probably a little late in my life realized when my son was probably 7 year old. That's where I realized that who am I? Okay. So I resonate. I guess with every mother, you will, all mothers out there will resonate with this. The moment you give birth to the child, or maybe from the time that you conceive the child, I think 99% of the women or the mothers, I would say, would do anything in their capacity to take care of that baby.
Correct.
Is what I truly believe, because that's our primary, your mind, your brain is primarily designed like that, right? All your hormones will kick in like that. Bear me with me because I'm a doctor. I kind of give also the science and scientific information,
We are
because
glad to
you
hear
are
it. Yeah,
releasing
you
all
can.
the hormones, yeah, because you're releasing hormones like oxytocin, which is the hug hormone, which is a cuddle hormone, which and you all the time, that's why the mother and child bond is so special, right? So I guess if you identify this, that you are a mother, let's not keep it aside, let's keep it at the center. Let I am a mother, like this is my second, I would say, I if not primary, then this is my secondary identity, because I wouldn't like to take away from some women that they feel that okay, mother is my extension. I'm not that, because I feel like a person I am. As I said, at the my son became 7 year old, and I realized that what I resonate the most is my identity as a mother. Okay,
Okay.
and everything else in my life is an extension of that. I'm
Okay.
not sure whether I'm able to express it eloquently so that everybody can get it, but you play different roles in your life. You are the center of your solar system, right? So when you look at your solar system, you're the center, and your career, your relationships, money, your health, everything is like an extension of it. Okay. So for me, I realize what is that identity that I resonate with maximum. Do I resonate with a career woman, Meghna? Do I resonate with a person who wants to make a lot of money, Meghna? Do I resonate with a health and fitness freak, Meghna? Or do I resonate the maximum as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter-in-law, as a daughter, as a sister? What do I resonate with? Do I resonate, what kind of a person that I resonate the most with? And I realized that the best thing that the best role that I love to play is of a mother.
Wonderful.
And it's not just for my son. That was the biggest revelation that happened to me when he became 7 year old. There was an incident because of that. It happened.
Okay.
But the
Okay.
revelation happened to me that time,
Okay.
that everything that I do in my life is an extension of that role.
Okay.
And
Okay.
that's where, if you realize that there is no good and bad in that, you can be an excellent mother and do the rest of the roles beautifully, because a mother is capable of multitasking. I feel the mother is like a Durga, all she has got 9 avatar,
Yeah.
all hands in her. All mothers can relate to this, like my son is now 17. He's going to turn 18 in couple of months, Ishwarya. But I remember the moment this whole COVID started, and people started saying, oh, stock up the sanitizers, this and that. I remember, some things you just inculcate when you become a mother. I remember when my child was born, that's where the bag of, sanitizer comes in, right? So I remember the sanitizer and the wet wipes never went out of the bag. They're still there. Like every time I would
Okay.
restock them, right? So I feel that if you can identify with that identity which you resonate the most, whether it's wife, whether it's daughter-in-law, whether it's daughter, and then you just need to personify that identity in every area of your life, because that's the best you resonate with, right? So if my son
Okay.
asks me in the middle of the night that I want to eat something today, something right now, he would probably hesitantly ask me, but I wouldn't mind getting up and doing it. And at the same time,
Correct.
Ishwarya, I realize this, that it's not just for my son. If in the middle of the night, if someone comes to me for help, I will take care of that person, not just in the food area, but I will take care of that person, because I have that inherent motherly instinct inside me. So
Wonderful,
I
wonderful.
mother every area of my life. I mother my health, as in I take care of my health like
Okay.
my mother would take care of it. I take care
Okay.
of my diet like my mother would feed me. I take
Okay.
care of my money like it's my child. I take care of my career as if it's my child. I take care of all my relationships as if they are my children. That's just an
Okay.
extension of who I am. So
Okay.
I feel, this is my view, of course. Let me know. I mean, your viewers can have their own view, but I feel if you identify one personality and you stick with that and you then extend into every area of your life, I'm sure you're an extraordinary woman and you will
Wonderful.
create success in every area of your life. The problem happens when you want to choose either or.
Correct.
Now that's not the question. The moment you realize that you are this aspiring career woman, oh great, then you connect it with your motherhood and you feel that, okay, I am this person. The way I do my duties at work, let me do those things with responsibility, love, compassion. See, any area of your life it is doing well because you're focusing on it, you're paying attention to it, and you're doing it with love. Nobody grows without love.
Correct.
you
Okay.
ju- this is my view. I'm not sure if everybody can resonate with that, but I personally feel the moment I recognize that I'm a mother, I think I grew in all areas of my life.
No, this is a different kind of learning, or as I can say, it is a different perspective in itself. Because the first time I'm hearing, okay, every time I see me as a mother, I see, yes, I'm a mother. When I see myself as career woman, yeah, I'm a whole different person as a career woman. I'm not able to relate both. Now, this is the first time ever I'm hearing a story where I can relate both. Yes, I also cherish my motherhood so much. I go sometimes, I do over. Okay, and yeah, I love doing that. But then now it is the first time I'm hearing, yes, I can be a passionate career woman also being a mother. I can be a very, very lovable cook also as a mother, and I can earn my money financially also thinking it is my child. And the second biggest thing that I have learned now from this particular story, I always miss my mom. Okay, she passed away 10 years back, and I always miss my mom. And today it is like a different kind of perspective to that story as well. I'm going to feed myself as though my mother has given it to me, and that in itself is a different thing, you see. So when we take that motherhood, there are multiple things that we can align to it. Okay, when we are
Absolutely.
excelling in that, then definitely we will be able to excel in all our perspectives as well. Wow.
Absolutely. It's the separation that you create in your space that creates the problem.
Okay, okay.
There is no separation. I'm not saying the challenges will not come. See, as a career woman, I used to carry my child to my career as well, because there was nobody to take care of him sometimes. So that is all going to be there. The challenges, you cannot supersede them. You supersede them by acting on them. But what I'm
Correct.
saying is, to keep your balance, to keep an integration, you first need to understand that every area of your life is an integration. You cannot keep a work life balance because there's no balance. You just have to integrate it, and post that integration should happen in your space.
Okay, okay, yeah, sure. Thank you so much for that beautiful learning. Thank you so much, Meghna. Now, as you said, no, we cannot manage work, we cannot have work-life balance. That's why I always talk about power balance. Power balance is nothing but getting help from people around us, giving gratitude, using a better communication, a better support system, building a good support system in hand. If we don't have anybody else, at least our husband should be a support system, or our own self has to be a support system for ourselves, right? So in that way also, a power balance has to be created. Only then we will have very less stress is what I believe. So I don't always talk about work-life balance or somehow managing work and life, that will always create stress. So what is that what is the different kind of perspective that you are willing to give here? And before that, I just my viewers, Chitra, thank you so much for coming. Wendy, thank you so much for joining in the show. Thank you. Yeah, let's talk about it. Maybe.
Again, see, Ishwarya, I feel again, as I said, that it's integration, right? So for me, I also, if you look at it from the perspective of physics and metaphysics, when you say balance, first there has to be imbalance.
Correct.
You know what I mean, right? To create balance in something, first you create a balance. Like the chaos will only come when there is chaos.
Yeah, correct.
So I am very conscious of the words that I use, and I don't want balance in my life because I know that there is nothing in balance in the nature. Everything is integration.
Okay. Okay.
There is nothing in balance. If you see, do you see any character in the universe having same color, same structure, same texture, same shape? No, everything is different. No two species are similar. Even in the same species, if you look at humans, we also look different, aren't we? Our fingers are not similar. Nothing is having a certain balance. Like everything you can look at, it's beautifully imbalanced but having a great you can say that there is a great pattern to it, and there is a great way of integrating it, like how beautifully we integrate different things in our life. Like look at the light, like there are 7 colors, they are so beautifully integrated into each other. You cannot separate them on the spectrum. There is higher and lower spectrum, and they are just woven together. You cannot say green is separate from the red. No, on the spectrum they are all extension of each other, right?
Okay.
So I feel everything in your life is an extension of what you are. The moment you get connected with your real self, you are there right inside you. You don't need to seek outside anything. I firmly believe that the abundance is not created, it is generated.
Okay.
So there is so much inside you. If you rediscover about yourself, I think you are be it a woman, be it a man, be it a mom, or be it a child, I think we all are powerhouses. And scientifically, if I have to say this, every cell of your body has 1.4 volts of battery. And there are 70 trillion cells in your body. So you can only imagine the electricity and the electromagnetic field that we have in our body.
That's how we call it as aura, right?
Absolutely. Now you see, if you use the electricity wisely, it will it will lit up the whole world. But if you don't use the electricity wisely, it can also create a short circuit and burn up. That's where the problems in life happens.
Okay, fine. Okay.
So realize this, that you are a powerhouse. You don't need to create a powerhouse out of you. Just realize that you're a powerhouse. Go back to the source. And that source is, like I said, the most resonating personality for me is as a mother. The mother, don't we respect Mother Nature?
Definitely.
Right? Similarly, if I look at it that I'm a mother, if I can nurture my child, I can nurture myself too. It's just the lack of self-love. Nobody teaches in the world to a man or a woman to love self. And that is something that you got to teach yourself. You learn to love yourself, and I'm telling you, 99% of your problems are gone. It's a difficult giving a shot.
Okay, superb. Okay. But whenever we think about the self now, no, the major question that comes to mothers, if I'm going, yes, I'm hungry, I understand, but if I'm going to eat, keeping my baby crying beside me, will I be able to eat more than three mouths? Then what is the whole purpose? What is self love? Is it really selfish or something like that? The same question happens when they
Okay,
have to select between their dreams and motherhood. Everywhere they have the same question of selfishness, or is it me that have to first take care and then my baby? Or then my husband, how to have a better understanding in that perspective.
okay, okay. So Ishwarya, I remember when I became a new mother, my mother and my mother-in-law both, and I've seen my mother. I have three elder sisters, so I always saw my mother taking care of them and doing stuff for them. So whenever I used to see whenever the baby is sleeping, my mother would insist my sisters to eat and finish it. Okay, so she was taking care of it, right? Now when I was delivered, I was at my mother-in-law's house. She did the exact same thing. Okay, she used to say, "Ki forget about it, just eat first, and then he will wake up and we will figure it out." But there is somehow, all mothers would relate to me that somehow when you sit to eat, that's where the child will cry and ask for food. That's where the child will, the worst situation is the child is going to poo and you are like, oh my God, leave my food. So there are times, Ishwarya, that, I remember and, I still tease my son. He's a teenager. Thankfully, beautifully, we have a great bonding and relationship. I said only a mother can clean and then put a powder on it and clean it up well and then give a kiss. I think every mother gives a kiss to the bum of a child, right? So I remember,
Definitely.
yeah. So I don't mean a self-love at that shallow level here at all. Self-love doesn't mean that you don't do things for others or you don't really fulfill your responsibilities. What self-love means is realizing what you are and who you are, really embracing the dark side of you. Nobody in the world is only good and not bad. We all have the dark and light, and we all have the good and bad. It's the place where you start kind of like rejecting that part of you which is a shadow self of you, where you feel, oh my God, how did I think like this? This is so bad, no? This is something is so bad, people will judge me, or something like this will happen. Like to give you an example like this, yesterday I was in a session with one of my high profile clients, and she was working on the one of the things that I'm sharing here is because most mothers will relate to this is, when in your early motherhood you lose interest. Some people lose interest in sexual activities because you're overflowing with oxytocin and you're taking care of your baby. Somewhere that nurturing is happening, so you don't really, sometimes it happens, right? So she was working on her sexual life and she said that, and she was not ready to open up. After a long time, she opened up and she said, I hope you don't judge me if I tell you this. I said, for so many days you're working with me, what makes you think that I'll judge you? And I said, my fundamental philosophy is everybody is good and everybody is bad. Who am I to judge you? Like in Hindi they say, right? Hamam mein sab nange. So
Everybody is
I'm not
imperfect.
sure whether everybody is imperfect, and in the shower. So in life, everybody has got their something or the other going on, right? So then she shared, she said that when I was young, uh, I remember my auntie, my mother's sister, we were sleeping together. Most of the times I used to sleep with her. She was 16, 17-year-old, and she used to fondle with my parts. And I also enjoyed it. And I never shared this with anybody because I felt extremely guilty of enjoying it. Now you see, when you have this, I just told her, I said, ki every child at that age enjoys the touching because that's where you're discovering your sexuality. And you're not enjoying it as a pleasure thing, it's a physical impulse. And I said, when you want to hide it from the world and when you're asking your therapist that will you judge me, imagine the trust issues that you have within yourself. And the moment somebody is going to, even if it's your husband, is going to come close to you, you're going to put up a wall. You're going to put up a wall or a barrier where you don't allow. And I said sex, maybe the initial phase of your relationships all like physical, physical, physical. But I said when you cross a certain level of your relationship, I think it's the sexes comes much later. You know, before 70% of your relationship after a few years becomes more emotional, more companionship, more like you taking care, and you know, you other person taking care of you, your thought and your intellectual wavelength and stuff like that. And I said in your relationship then the 30% remains sex. So I said if you do not release this barrier, the chances are you're never going to feel sexual. Because now you've reached that level that you need to open up to this. And I guess I realize this, that each one of us feel a certain way when it comes to our shadow self. It's a certain kind of a, you know, and I'm 100% sure, Ishwarya, that nobody here is holier than thou. And it's not because you don't want to be a good person, it's because the world is like that, where sometimes you do certain things. Like I remember as a child, I like somebody's pencil, I like somebody's eraser, I have stolen it as a baby. Now it's only when I realized that, oh, this is not right. My mother made me return it back, that's where I returned it back. And maybe I got it back from the person or stuff like that, that, oh, you stolen my stuff. And, you know, from there, maybe I created this thing, oh my God, people are going to judge me. So I learned to be a little dishonest in my life. You know, it's common. Everybody goes through these experiences. So the moment you stop judging your shadow self, you are here doing the best of your ability. If you embrace that aspect, I feel that's the self-love. Like suppose there is a time when you are not feeling well and you cannot take care of your child on that day. There is no reason you should feel guilty. You should definitely look at yourself first, is what I mean. I don't mean on a regular, normal day, you don't take care of your child and you take care of yourself. And I see, even if somebody does that, I will not judge the person and I will not say that person is selfish.
Okay.
Probably at that point of time, because see, because no mother is cruel enough to keep her baby hungry and eat. If she's doing it, who am I to judge her? Because there must be something in her space. Because I remember there were times when, you know, I'm feeding my baby and I'm so famished that I know that if I don't eat right now, I'm not able to be nice to my child.
Yes.
So might as well gulp something down in 5 minutes and take care of my baby, because that will keep me sane. If that is what my body demands, then I honor my body. I know that I'm not cruel.
Very true.
You see, that's self-love. That is self-love. So how can it be selfish?
Okay.
I'm not talking about the jargon that the world speaks right now. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, yes, there will be challenges. Yes, there will be responsibilities. But, you know, I'm talking about the particularly those era of women where, you know, if you would have seen, our mothers used to be like that, you know, they're tying the band on their head, they're putting the balm on their back, and they're still standing in the kitchen and cooking, and, you know, then when you ask them, like I've asked my mother, I said, why are you standing in the kitchen when you are unwell? She said, if I don't do it, who else will do it? Come on, yaar. I mean, your husband is there, you have 3-4 daughters with you, and if you don't do it, nobody's going to die hungry. It is your compulsion that if you don't do it, then your identity is in the threat, that if I don't do only this much also, then what am I useful for? Now that's not self-love, right?
That is very true. Even I have come across this. Yesterday, my husband asked me the same question. Okay, why are you struggling so much and feeding him? You can leave him for some time. Then I was telling him, no. If I know he is half empty. If I leave him, then what kind of a mother I am? So it again says the same thing. No, I have to develop my self-love. And most of the mothers here, we have problem with self-love, correct? And the judgments part.
And the other problem,
so beautifully.
The other part, the mother said, new generation mothers have the problem with, including my generation. You want to keep your child all the time happy, which is wrong. You know, because you may be able to keep your child happy, but when the child goes into the world, the child is going to feel miserable. So let the child be bored. A few days back, like a couple of days back, my son was utterly bored, and he was like complaining all the time that it's been 5 months, I have not stepped out of the house, I'm kind of bored, this, I want this, I want that. I said, you're not getting anything. It's perfectly all right
Okay.
to get bored in the
Okay.
whole day. I
Okay.
said, from the boredom, the creativity will come, something you will do. You don't need another game to play for the boredom. So sometimes
Okay.
it's okay to let your child cry, yeah, it will clean up his lungs. That doesn't
Correct.
make you a cruel
Okay.
mother. That makes you a mother who's a sculptor, who's preparing
Mm.
the child to be facing the boulders in life. And life is like that, yeah. Nobody out there is looking out. I mean, I'm not saying supporting you, but you have to go out and face your challenges,
Correct.
and that's where you'll grow above
Yes.
them.
Yes.
So
Yes.
right
World
now
has
you have
both
to prepare
possibilities.
your, yeah, you have to show your child both the sides.
Mm.
That's
Mm.
your responsibility as a mother and as a father.
Hmm. Okay, okay. Actually, I started the show telling my viewers, if at all you are going to have that creating your destiny is something all of a crap, and you are going to have a different perspective to it. And I think not only with respect to destiny, with respect to self-love, with respect to judgments, with respect to every sentence that you speak, I can see a different perspective to it, all by myself. So I think for everybody who's listening is going to have a wonderful time and lot of learnings as well. Thank you so much, Meghna, for it, because it's all definitely a new kind of perspectives only in way explained in a different sense as well. Very much connected with our day-to-day lifestyle. So in that way also it really helps us to connect it. Thank you so much. And my next question to you will be that creating destiny only, because most of the mothers or most of them, and irrespective of mother or father, we have this perspective towards life saying that, see, my wife is not supporting, my husband is not supporting, even if they support, my in-laws are not going to support, they are very aggressive. And when we have a barrier like life blocking thoughts within us itself, and we are unable to focus further. Okay, we are in victim mode, but we enjoy it so much, that self pity, we enjoy it so much that we are not able to see our life beyond. Okay, and we keep doing the same pattern over and over for rest of our life. And we also say life is totally crap, there's nothing called destiny, you cannot create anything, everything is just fate. So for that kind of mothers, for that kind of human beings, what is that you are willing to say?
Okay, the first thing you got to check whether you're going through a postpartum depression.
Okay, as a
Okay,
new
as a new mother. Okay, the second thing, okay, I firmly believe, Ishwarya, that if somebody could see the choices, they would take the choice. Okay, when a person is in a victim zone, okay, I don't judge them. I only feel that they are in that zone because they don't see any other possibilities. It's like, this particular thing is called as scotoma in the science language, right? So what is scotoma is, you all must have experienced this, that, certain things are right there in front of you, but somehow you can't see them, and then somebody says, hey, it's right there. Like, and then
correct.
you're like, oh wow, oh yeah, I don't know why, right? We all experience this, right?
Yes.
So in mind, it is called as scotoma, or a blind spot that you create. Okay, now why does the blind spot happen like that? Because of your upbringing, because of the way that you are progressing in your life, because of the way you look at your identity, and because of the environment. Now your first question is, I mean, I'm going to split it up. Your question is one, I'm going to split it up like this, that when you feel that, your husband, your in-laws, somebody in your life is not supporting you, okay? Now, it has been it's not that I had all against people, but the way I was moving into my purpose and the way I was on a mission, I think hardly anybody understood it. Because I am an obsessive person when it comes to, when I get into a subject, I dive really deep, and back then I'm talking about, sometimes you fail to connect with your family or tell them. They are not
Correct.
supporting you, not because they don't want to support you, they don't support you because they love you, and they feel that this is something either is not going to be good for you and future, or if you grow this way, maybe you will leave them, or maybe you will not be on the same page with them. So
Correct.
I feel that if you have people in your life, those who are not supporting you, okay, the first thing you can do is you can sit with them and create a future with them. Most people
Correct.
fail
Okay.
to create and show the picture that in my creating destiny, I have you also with me.
Okay.
Okay, and
Right, right.
together we are together we are traveling in the first class, together we are going to these different destinations, telling your in-laws that together all of us are going on holidays. We fail to do that, and I have done that as a
Correct.
young mother. I failed to convey all these things. But after 7 years of my relation, my motherhood, I realized that what is the problem, and that's because I was constantly working on myself through various coaches and mentors. And that's after that I started creating the destiny with them. And the moment I included them, see, initially they did not believe me, because suddenly how come this person changed? Okay, it took me a
Okay.
while for them to get convinced that she really means by my
Okay.
thoughts, by my feelings, by my actions and my words. So I actually did what I was saying. So it took me a couple of more years for them to believe in it. And then today I have a life where, my God, my family doesn't stop talking and doesn't stop being proud of me the way I am. So I am the
Okay.
living proof of how can you include people in your destiny. Okay, that's one aspect. The second aspect,
Okay.
if you feel that they are still not supportive, and I will tell you, most women watching me here or anybody watching me here, you will always have people from family only, those who will be against you. Your
Correct.
closest people will be your biggest enemies in your journey, because of whatever reasons I explained, right? And how many of them are there? People always ask me this question, and I always say, you have 5 people, those who don't support you. No, you create a 50 people's army out there, those who support you.
Correct.
Invest in a coach, invest in a community, invest in a people, those who are there to support you. So what happens is, you don't leave your family, you handle their negativity, their non-support, their whatever they are going through, you while you're building it up for them, on with them. You can vent out with your girlfriends, you can talk to your coach and mentor, and you can ask people, how did you do it? It will shorten the time of your success. Like, it took me 9 years to figure this out. I wish if I had found somebody, or if I had made an effort to find somebody, I would say, I'm sure there must be people, but I didn't make that effort. I only started
I
making an
call
effort after 7 years.
Okay, okay. I call this term no as relative successes, Meghna. And why do I say no? And whenever I was in trouble, I always ensure to find person who had the same kind of trouble in their life, went through it, and then they were successful. After successful, they had this wonderful learnings in their hands. No, and using that learnings, they
Yes,
were like heading up in their life. It was like a shortcut for me if I am able to approach them and just open up. When I open up, no,
totally.
they are giving, they are very happy to help me because they themselves have undergone that pain. So they were like,
Totally.
yeah, Aishwarya, I understand you. This is what you need to do, and they are giving me some action items to do. Then I'm just taking those action items and I'm using it in my life according to my support system, because no two-person is same and no two-person can maintain the same kind of support systems as well. So I did the same thing, and that's when my problem first addressed. And that's when it all just started. Okay, even I went into depression, everything just happened, and from there on only my life started to take a 360-degree change. And I'm very glad that you are also speaking about the same thing, but the name alone is quite different. I've given a name like a relative successor, but then you are terming it in a different way. But I'm glad, yeah, yeah, that really helps, right,
Ve-
Meghna? Thank you so much for
because
that.
see, I guess Ishwarya, you're a generation younger than me and smarter than me. Every generation which is new coming in the planet is smarter than the previous one, I guess, right? So it took me quite
Thank you
some
so much.
time to even get into the zone and realizing, as I said, I was a mess,
Mm,
and
mm,
from
mm,
there to create the message and realizing it. And I guess, but yeah, today it's so rampant, and everybody has an access to somebody who's achieved success where they want to achieve. It's just a matter of figuring that out. And the other thing I wanted to suggest your viewers is, there are, you know one thing that has kept me sane in my life is always looking at people, those who are better than me and those who are lower than me. When I looked at the people better than me, it inspired me to become like them. And when I looked at people lower than me, I felt I felt grateful where I am. I think if you get both these perspectives, now you get inspired from people, and here you inspire the people those who are lower than you. You inspire them to come higher, and then you look at the people those who are higher than you, and you get inspired and you start climbing the ladder. I think that keeps you sane, and you feel, your blind spot opens up. You suddenly feel that, okay, it's not that I'm not alone in this journey. I'm not the only person also who's going through this. Everybody is going through something or the other, and let me see where I want to focus on.
Yeah, I see it in a different term, no? The same example, but it helps us to be non-egoistic. I mean, and when I'm seeing a better person, I get inspired and move further. When I see a person lower than me, it cuts down my ego actually. Okay, from there only I have come up. I should not have any overhead, thinking, oh, I'm somebody else like that. It is a journey. When I can come up, that person can also come up. So there need not be any ego at all. When I can see a person in a higher level, then I can also become that particular person in one day. So anywhere, and the journey for everybody is going to be the same. I need not be egoistic about anything. So let me just give hand to the lower people and hold the hand of the upper people, so that we all somehow balance and we complete our journey with a lot of peace and happiness, right? The same, that really helps us to be really non-egoistic. That is wonderful, Meghna. That really helps. This example, I just loved it.
Thank you.
But the way that I saw was a little more different than your perspective. Thank you so much for that. And my next question to you, Meghna, what were your empowering attributes? See, as a woman, I understand there are multiple roles and responsibilities, and you have explained it much beautifully. But there should have been wonderful empowering attributes that you have carried throughout your life till this all 40 years of your age, that you have carried so many empowering attributes, only that helped you to move further, okay, during your challenging times. What were those empowering attributes, Meghna?
The most important is hard work. The second is stay humble. And the third is stay hungry.
Okay. When I say stay hungry, my inquisitiveness will be there, my intuitiveness will be better, and all of that, correct? And
stay hungry means, stay hungry for me is like, never ever say that I know it. Even if you know it, you always have something else to learn from the same thing. So you always look at when somebody is sharing. Modest, I never allow that curiosity to die. You may be sharing the same thing that I learned 100 times before, but I will still look at, I will have that listening, that maybe there is something else that I want to learn from this. Superb.
Okay, superb. And I have this problem with this hard work. Some people say smart work is good. Some people say hard work, if I say hard work itself, that is a life block. Right? Because you always wanted to work hard. And I'm kind of a person who sits till 1 o'clock in the night, if at all I'm determined to complete a work. And I cannot have a good sleep before completing my determined work, okay? So I have this problem, whether I should do a hard work or a smart work, which I actually need to attract using this law of attraction, and which word I have to exactly use. So what is your perspective towards it?
Okay. My perspective is you do hard work in the right direction. You see, you got to, if you want solitaire or a diamond, you go to the diamond mine. You don't go to the coal mine. Okay, the mines are different. Even the metaphorically they say that you find diamonds in the coal mine. That is not true.
Okay.
The coals are very superficially situated. So you dig into the coal mine, you will get a coal. You can't get diamonds there. You have to go to the diamond mine to dig deeper, and they are much you need to dig really deeper. That's where you find the diamonds. You see, so the difference in I don't like the words like hard work or smart work. I'm not saying that. I said sorry for my language, and it's only women, so I can say that you fucking do whatever you need to do. Whether it's a hard work, whether it's a smart work, it doesn't matter. You become a person, whatever it takes. You got to do everything. You got to use your brains. If you don't think that you have enough skills, enough knowledge, good habits, good beliefs, then you acquire them. You learn. So you do hard work in every area. See, in this context, when people think of hard work, no, they literally think of hard work as in, you are as if you're, you are kind of like, doing the whole mining work. No, it's not that. You got to work holistically. It's your intellect, it's your intelligence, it's your physical hard work. Everything matters and in the right direction. So first of all, you got to understand, where do you want to go? What's your destination? Now, identifying that itself is a challenge for a lot of people. And I think if you find a right role model or a mentor or a coach, if he can or she can help you, that this is the purpose of your life, this is a mission you have come up with on this planet, this is your mission. And the moment you identify that, everything then starts falling in the place.
Okay.
So then you know where to work hard, right? You don't randomly, today I'm going in north direction and doing a hard work, tomorrow I'm going in east direction and doing a hard work. Then that hard work is stupid. So first identify what's your destination and then do the hard work in that area. But hard work is irreplaceable. You can't do a smart work when it's hard work is required.
Okay.
I mean, see, I'll give you your mother. Yeah, you have mothers here, right? If your child has done a potty in the diaper, how much smart can you work? You've got to do the hard work of cleaning the shit, right?
Yes.
That's exactly the life is all about. You can't do hard work when the shit is piling on. Smart work when the shit is smiling on. It will start smelling. So hard work is actually going there and doing that work, and smart work is knowing where to work.
Superb. Okay. Having the clarity is the base. Clarity is power. Okay, and with that clarity, put some work in the right direction, and success will be like a byproduct of the whole event.
Absolutely.
Okay, fine. My next question to you is: mothers feel overburdened and feel that nobody is there to listen to them. Many times, okay. Even they are not ready to open it to their husband because they say, even if I say he's going to tell me the same answer, what is that I have to go and talk to him? Even if I explain my children 10,000 times, they are not listening. What can I do further? And that itself is creating a burden for them, okay? They are unable to come out of this burden. Only if they are able to see something different than this particular burdened feeling, they will have they will be having a different perspective itself towards life. So I want you to kindly address this question.
Okay, I'm going to be very blunt in this question, okay?
Okay. And I'm going to give you a caution. I'm going to give you a caution. I'm going to share this video everywhere, okay? Not on Instagram.
Yeah, that's okay. That's fine. Yeah, that's fine. I'm not using any abusive language here, but I'm going to give a truth bomb to people here. Because see, when I was young and I was like, I was not doing well in my academics. I was kind of like walked up and I felt that why am I not doing well? My father wasn't a teacher, but as a person, he would always go and do the charity into the night school. So he would teach in night school as a charity. So I always complained to my father that I don't know why my teachers say that I am not a good student. Okay, now my father was a teacher, right? And he used to teach the night school children. Now you can only imagine the night school children, they were coming from really backgrounds, like poor backgrounds, where they were working probably whole day and then they were coming from night schools. My father said that I don't think any child in my class is getting less than 60%. Okay, so he said in education, okay, 50% responsibility lies with the child, student, and 50% responsibility lies with the teacher. No teacher can tell you that you're a bad student, and if you're a bad student, the teacher is a bad teacher. They have still not understood how to convey the message to you right way so that you become a good student. And my father actually went to the school and spoke to those teachers and said that I am also a teacher, and that's the reason I'm coming and talking to you. I have no means to protect my daughter here. I want her to go through the rough phase, and because my parents believed that we should face the challenges, right? Yes. So they never protected us from anything. But my father came and spoke to the teachers, and that he said that, if my child is a bad student, and whichever teacher says that, and whichever subject the teacher is saying that, that subject teacher is also a bad teacher, because it's a two to tango.
Okay.
It's very easy to put yeah. So why am I giving you this example, Ishwarya? Here is it's very easy to put a responsibility of your mess on other people. My child doesn't listen to me. My husband doesn't listen to me. It is so stupid.
Wonderful.
That means 50% responsibility is at your place. You are not able to convey yourself
The
appropriately.
message. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're not able to express yourself fully. You're not able to set boundaries fully. And 100% I'm telling you, Ishwarya, if you look at the people, those who are blaming and complaining, okay, that other people are not supportive and other people are not listening, if you look at their interactions and communications, they are very bad listeners. Even if they are listening to their child, they are all the time thinking, how do I correct this child? Their focus is on correcting their their focus is on correcting their husbands, their focus is on correcting their children. Now I am a mother of a teenager, I am a wife, and I have been through all this. See, I'm not saying I'm holier than thou. In my initial phase of my relationships, I was a mess. I only could understand all these things when I worked on myself. I realized that I'm a bad listener. And when I'm a bad listener, the other person is also not going to listen to me.
Correct.
You know, most of the times, 99% of the people in communication are not listening. They are listening to answer back. They are not listening to fully allow that person's communication to land on them. So that's the reason your husband is not listening to you. That's the reason your son is not, your child is not listening to you. All of this is there. 50% responsibility lies with you.
Perfect. I 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
Because communication is the base. When we get the communication and expression right, we can even, I say in this way in my book, okay, even the worst enemy wanted to help us if we are actually opening our heart to them with a lot of love. And they would definitely want to help, because they are also human beings at the end of the day, right? And everybody have their own good and bad things, and it is up to us how we are going to convey the message and how we are going to take that criticism as well, because most of them are very they are not very okay to take the criticism. If I go and talk to my husband, he is saying you are good for nothing. When I hear that word, I'm not able to talk further, which means what? You are not able to take the criticism in the right way. So again, the problem lies within me. So when I work myself in a better way, I take that criticism also even in a positive way, and I make the same husband say, wow, you're doing a great job, with love, with power, and with grace, right? In that way only we have to take our life forward.
And also, you know, what you want in your life, first give.
Right,
you give first and then you get back.
Okay.
Very critical. These are very critical distinctions in life. You got to learn these things.
And no schools are teaching this for sure. And not even our
Absolutely,
parents.
no schools.
We are imbibing great things from our parents, and when they themselves are not knowing and doing certain things subconsciously. For example, my mom, she lived up to this motherhood throughout, okay? And when she wanted to live for herself, she found herself in a very bad disease, okay? So that's when I understood that, and I took this as Supermoms as my niche. That is simply because I don't want any mother to waste their time thinking their babies has to grow up, okay? And everything has to go hand in hand. Given through you, I'm trying to give the message to the mothers here. See, if you want to have a career life, good, you can go and have. And if you want to just embrace motherhood, do it without guilt. Many mothers does this with lot of guilt. They say, I have an ability, I have a potential, but I'm not able to do it. It is nothing like that. You are not able to do it. It is that you are not doing it because you are not unable to communicate it further. The same message only you are also giving. Communication is extremely important. We should not blame anybody. When we blame anybody, it means 50% blame is on ourselves, right? It is like a mirror.
Absolutely.
Okay, super. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Totally.
much. Okay. And yeah, I think this question you already answered. Like with respect to judgments, and we are not able to live our life because everywhere, and especially in India, okay, everywhere we think if at all I'm going to step out, what my next door person will think. If my baby is going to play extra for 10 minutes, what my next door person will talk about my baby. That itself is creating different. I mean, creating a trauma in ourselves and also the baby. So how can we handle this judgment? And you told us at before itself, but then I wanted to hear even more bigger perspective of it in a brief way.
See, I understand, it's very difficult to get out of the judgment so easily, okay? In fact, I think fully embraced. I'm 40, I'm going to turn 46 now. I think I fully embraced myself at the age of 40, to be really, really honest, okay? Where I remember coming to my husband and telling him, and you know what, it's enough is enough now, okay? I keep sliding back to these judgments and I keep sliding back of what this one will think and what that one will think. And I'm taking the responsibility of, because out there, with women it also happens that sometimes when you're working you also get men's attention, and they not always you get it in an appropriate way sometimes, right? So I remember that I am having that, I had that barrier a lot, where I used to not expose as a sin. I would not really go out there and do a lot of stuff because I would think that why it's not required and stuff like that. This is all childhood, all the upbringing. So I remember coming back to my husband and I'm like, you know what, I don't really care who thinks what now or who feels what when they look at me, or I'm done thinking and feeling and taking the burden of who thinks what about me. And I just want to give it like a, I just want to feel that it's out of my sphere. Like I understood that all this talk that was going on in my mind was all because I was judging myself. So one day when I turned 40, I did this 1 month activity. Okay, if anybody is up to it, please do it. 1 month activity where I every single day woke up an hour before everybody else in the house. Okay, and I took books, like long books, and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote every single day for 1 hour. I wrote about, first all the garbage came out. This one said that one said this, all the rubbish which was from the childhood piled up came, and you can only imagine that I've been working on myself for many, many years. So for me, till the 6 years back, it was still coming out, right? After 15, 16 days, that long, lengthy pages started becoming half a page. And after a month or so, Ishwarya, it was so beautiful that when I used to wake up, there were no more thoughts. It was just plain. It was, my mind was this beautiful soil. And that's when I started meditating. That's because before that I could not meditate properly. I always used to feel this, anxiety or something, like I have to finish this, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do that, like, like my child was in a school, so what tiffin to give him, what to do this, and then I have to pack myself, I have to go to the office. So always there was this edginess somewhere, even though I have worked on myself so much. I think after doing that whole writing stuff, I just emptied everything. And today also, if I feel that I'm piling up something because of, see, these days I'm overloaded with work, right? So I just start writing. And I think that is one friend that I felt that I am able to kind of like put it out there. And I still have those diaries of back then. And when I read them now, I'm like, oh my God, what rubbish. What was I carrying? It's venomous, it's acidic. And if you carry so much, where is the growth? You're just going to burn every dream that you have.
Correct.
So I think what helps me is just sitting and just writing and writing and writing and releasing it. I don't feel that I need, and when I look back and I read it, I feel, shit, why did I judge myself like this? This is so stupid. You see, you just grow above your stories, because when you read them, you actually laugh at them.
Yes.
Is this me?
Correct.
I think that's one of the things which is really helpful. I don't think telling other person helps as much, because when you tell, apart from the coaches and mentors, like, you know, person who is neutral, I think if you share it with any friend or your relative or somebody, they are going to be biased about the situation and they are going to add to your fire. So you either find a person who is neutral and who is kind of going to give you a perspective which is making you help you grow in your life, or you just do writing stuff, and you know, somewhere that detachment to your story will come, and somewhere you will start looking at it differently.
Superb, Meghna.
So you gotta learn to drop and embrace.
Drop. Yes, let go. Right. And I call this as self interrogation, as a part of self interrogation, self reactive and self responsive talks. That's how I have pictured in it my book, because it really helped me when I was very depressed. I was not having a better clarity at all what to do further. Okay, so I did the same exercise. I just sat down. Actually, more than sat down, I sat me down, because none of us will be ready to first sit down and write it, because we are afraid. What will happen? Will I really become a good person after this? And should I need to become a good person? Yes, you need to become a good person, but our same mind will not allow us to do that. So it is like, after writing it, I did one more step. I just burnt it off. That is because
you can do that.
I was like feeling more relaxed. I felt as though one big pile of enemy inside me was just went away. Okay. So I did this using self-reactive talk. Okay. And after that, I started the responsive talk also. Okay, Aishwarya, now all of this is okay. Where do you want to become? How do you want to take your life from now on? Who are your supporters? Okay, what kind of support system you need to create? And that's how I created my own destiny. And I'm so glad that you are also in the same page, speaking about the same thing. But I have a different kind of learning from your exercise today, because I always wanted to meditate, but whenever I want to sit down to meditate, no, I have this problem of anxiety. Okay, my baby is there, I have to cook this thing for now, next for my husband I do, and for my FB live I have to prepare all of this, and I'm doing my coaching, so I have my own routine. And am I keeping up to all of this? And now a morning I got a message of similar kind from one of my other friend mentor, and I'm aligning your message also just to that. Keep writing for 15 days, and I have to see whether my anxieties are getting reduced, and that way I'm even more focused to it. And I'm glad every day we are peeling one layer after the other layer to become the best version of ourselves, and this is very beautiful, no? And through people like you, and it is all happening very naturally. And I'm glad that during this COVID season, and Divine has made us to do this program with great people like you. And I have wonderful 5 guests doing the same show with me, and they have given numerous learnings, and you are just adding up to it so well. Thank you so much, Meghna.
Thank you very much for inviting me here.
Thank you. So my last question to you will be, what is your message, key message that you are willing to tell to our viewers? Be it mothers, yeah, I'll be sharing it further, many other forums also, but especially for mothers, that what is that you're willing to tell them to unhook themselves from their pain, agony, and all of that, and create their own destiny. To give them a message, it is highly possible.
Okay, I'm just going to sum it up in one sentence. Okay, always remember this, that you may be the speck in the universe. Okay, but in the entire universe, if that speck is missing, it's not complete. So I want to say, you may be really tiny speck in the whole of the universe. So always look at yourself like that, don't allow the ego to get in your head and think that you're big, because you're tiny. Like, you know, our earth is only so tiny that what is our existence. But also remember that you are here, even if as a speck, even if you look at it like an atom, size of an atom, that size of an atom is important in the universe. So always give yourself importance, always give yourself the priority, work on yourself, because you need to shine brighter so that the entire world gets impacted and benefits out of you. At the same time, always remain humble, because you know that there are so many bigger creations than you.
Very true.
I think that's my message would be.
Thank you so much. And my final question to you, Meghna, and you are a person of your dreams today, okay? To whom would you like to give the gratitude for bringing up you to this level? And first is you, I always understand, and after you, who's that you are willing to give the gratitude for? Let's end this wonderful meeting, conversation with a gratitude note.
Well, I have a long list of it, Ishwarya, if I have to give you, okay? But today, what I am, I would first like to give gratitude to my son. Because today,
Mm,
what I am is I am because of him. As I said, that I
mm,
discovered that identity of a mother who's an extension into everything. Then
mm, mm,
definitely my parents who made me
mm,
who I am today.
mm,
My wonderful in-laws, families, my husband and all of that.
mm,
Immense gratitude to all the patients, all my students for the last 23 years.
mm,
Deep gratitude to all the teachers, right from
mm,
my kindergarten till now, who
mm,
sometimes kind of were villains in my life.
mm,
But they
mm,
were
mm.
there in my life as a villain or a thorn because they were shining or making, sculpting me. Also,
Mm,
to the teachers, those who added massive value to my life,
mm,
all the people, those who trusted me, right from the
mm,
people, those who collaborated with me, those who are still collaborating with me, those who are, you know, taking my work like you are taking my work to the world.
yes.
I have
Thank you
immense
so much.
gratitude for every person who has touched my life, whether in a good way or whether in a bad way. I think
Mm,
what I am today is because of every
mm,
person that I interacted
mm.
with.
Superb, superb, superb. Thank you so much, Meghna. Thank you so much. You are rocking, and I know you are a woman of substance, and you are doing a great work. And I really wish, with divine grace, let your work be multifold. Let you inspire millions and millions of people and transform their life for better. And you also treat them their physical alignment so that they never ever come back to you. Let them be with a lot of happiness and peace for the rest of their life. Thank you so much for
Thank you
being in
so
my
much,
show today.
Ishwarya. Thank you so much, and thank you, viewers, for watching me. The one sincere request if I can make the viewers, is if you're watching me, please subscribe my YouTube channel, my like me on my Facebook page, and also follow me on Instagram. All places, Dr. Meghna Dikshit, even on LinkedIn.
Okay. So viewers, please
Okay.
hear that message. Her name is Dr. Meghna Dikshit. Okay. So follow her everywhere. Okay. For your life to get transformed very positively in a very short span. Okay. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you very
Meghna, for that.
much. Bye bye.
Yeah. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
So, viewers, I think you would be enjoying this show. Thank you so much for listening to this conversation. And she had wonderful learnings. She spoke about wonderful things today. Never ever think about judgment or criticism. Self love is extremely important. There is nothing called selfishness when it comes to self love. So, don't take things in a very negative way. Instead, see how better you can make your life if with lot of positivity, with lot of optimistic thinking, and how you can use your self interrogation as such and become the best version of yourself. Thank you so much for being part of the show. Please do comment and share your comments and also your learnings as part of this conversation. Thank you. Stay safe. Bye bye.